Resolve by becoming rich.
Take all your money and buy Bitcoin.
I say when we
You can
sell.
wake up every morning and say GM.
GM. Sunday, 30th of June. This is it. This is the end of the month, last day of June. So let's do daily levels and let's zoom in a little bit here and let's look at what's happening next. So we have a weekly close and a monthly close coming up at the same time. Currently the weekly looks like this. A long wick below again. That's promising for sure. Although BTC still appears to be in a sort of weak phase where there isn't clearly demand, and it might lead us to several more weeks of chop inside of this weekly range before moving upwards. That's if that kind of 58k pivot level is going to continue holding. I do think we go down and test lower in the coming weeks if it does hold at this level. But what we saw on the lower time frame is a quick reversal here. As I mentioned, over the weekend we had this, since Monday, we had this point of control and this volume distribution that formed, and price pumped up into the point of control here over the weekend, which I was talking about on Friday or Saturday, maybe it was yesterday's video. And that's exactly what we did. Pushed up into it, took out any late shorts that are piling in. And right now is where it is forming another lower high. So Bitcoin, to shift structure to something more constructive and more potentially bullish, that needs to change. So if it starts to move up, obviously that can also be the sweep of all the highs. So there's like your last bearish failure point would be there. Obviously currently we're seeing one here, and if either of those fail, the target is this pivot, right? So if this does end up being another lower high, it's going to that pivot. If it comes up here and sweeps out and falls back inside, it's probably going to that pivot, probably back to that level. I think that's where the market eventually wants to go. It might not visit it so soon. It doesn't tend to, by the way. When you have these larger sell-offs, prices not tend to revisit it very quickly all the way back down, unless it's going to break down and genuinely go lower. So it's usually, on balance, a good thing if Bitcoin doesn't do that, if it doesn't go back and fill that in right away. And not really much point having any overly strong opinions going into the end of the month here. You can have some window dressing, right, where price is pushed to certain levels because it's the final day of the month and the monthly close is important, and people look at that and they use that as a benchmark. So oftentimes you can see strange moves happen because it's the final day of the month. And then of course, when next month starts, you're going to see different moves, which I'm actually going to cover here on weekly outlook. I should cover it, shouldn't I? Yeah. So what I'm going to be doing today is studying the monthly opens and looking back at, a number of monthly opens and how the first week tends to go. And the reason why I'm obviously doing it on weekly outlook is because if I wait until the monthly preview video, which I'll do tomorrow, we'll have missed some of the price action. So keep an eye on that. Weekly outlook, 4 p.m. UTC. Live, that's going to be G. Also, the trading challenge is ongoing, closes at midnight tonight. Of course, it was fastest finger first, but that doesn't mean you can't enter. If you think you have the right answer, hint, hint, go to the challenge accepted channel and let me know what you think. Otherwise, not a whole lot to talk about on the weekend. Total, just looking at zoomed out. Total come down into support. This is starting to look like a decent bottom forming. So when the when the breakdown happened on Monday, I mentioned that the most sort of, not even really bullish, but least bearish thing to happen would be for price to go sideways. And where's the path I had from? There's a path from, it's not that one. Or that. So many different charts. Nope. There we go. So this path had drawn out last week. Obviously we went down and down and down and broke down, so it was following the path for the first few days. Very important that when price is in a downtrend and it stops going down, you should be looking out for a reversal. So that is exactly what's happened. Bitcoin may well be finding support here, and this could be the low, and you can see it on the total chart as well. It may well be the ultimate low for the total chart. It's probably come down into its 200-day moving average as well. Yeah, just right around it. So the thing with this though is it wouldn't get confirmed for quite a bit. The proper price confirmation comes when this breakdown level gets reclaimed. Right, and what did I talk about here? ETH ETF. Yeah. When the breakdown level gets reclaimed for the entire crypto cap, it'd be around there. Because what can also happen here is it's had an impulse candle, it's moved down, it's just going to, distribute for longer and still fall over anyway, right? So you have to see some kind of strong impulse like we saw back in May, where you see price actually breaking above those levels, holding, forming a higher low, and then boom, away it goes. And the next time that happens with both total and with BTC, I think that is bottoms in no matter what. You just treat it as the bottom being in when the bands next go green. So that's what I'm watching for on obviously total, but Bitcoin, same thing. Look where we're at. ETH, same again. Bands are red on all of these. ETH, by the way, is giving me more pause for that because it's in a much more bearish low time frame structure. And Solana, obviously after its fake news, I think Solana's just really chopping. It's got the 200 days as kind of a trend support, and it's stuck below the bands and it reversed that move. And I think it's just choppy phase here. Very, very choppy is the key word. So once they start to flip back into bullish green bands uptrends, that's where I think you see, every consolidation being bullish, dips being a buy again. But until then, we're still in a downtrending market. The other one with BTC is obviously the 4-hour bands, which of course are still fully bearish themselves. So be mindful of that. With the 4-hour EMA trend, we haven't even touched them yet, never mind push through them, never mind flip them. And if you look at just the most recent comparison, the first time you touch it and run all the way up, it sets a high. It then comes back, sets a high or low below the bands, and then flips them. And that's a typical type of price movement, right? It's like you can get a strong squeeze up into it, that gets people excited too soon, and it can just come all the way back. And it can also be bearish. It can go to new lows. That happens quite often, especially if we're in a, if you imagine that we're actually in a mini bear market, which can happen, like May 2021 was the same thing. If you can imagine that, like the other path I mentioned, where Bitcoin doesn't bottom out maybe till September, right? Or like it's actually later in September, like there, around the FOMC meeting. And just imagine that we were actually going down lower, right? And then higher. And that all of this was going to be a sweep on this part of the chart, right? If you imagine that was going to be Bitcoin's price action, which still takes you into the end of the year, going towards 100K and all of that, there would be a squeeze, I'd be sure, and it would be squeeze up into the bands, I'm sure of that, and it would also reject and go lower. And that's where, if you look at counter trend rallies, right, several times here, it pushes back right above the bands, and yet goes to clean new lows a couple of times. But then when you look at these more bearish phases, so obviously here we had the bands all flipping bearish, pushed above and held for long enough for them to almost flip bullish again, and then down it goes. Or over here, squeezes up into the bands, pushes all the way back down to the lows. and obviously throughout the bear market, you saw squeezes up into the bands a bunch of times that led to and were the actual catalyst for bigger moves down, right? Squeezed up into the bands led to clean new lows, catalyst to go down. So obviously not to say that Bitcoin's going to fucking 16k or whatever, but if it's going to lose some of these levels, don't be surprised to see it moving up first, which is why it puts you in that tricky position, because a lot of the confirmations people are going to have, and this is what the market does, right? A lot of the confirmations that people are going to have to become bullish again also line up perfectly with where you would want to sell, right? For going back into the 50 and the 100 as a bearish retest for the first time, by the way. It would be like the first time we would have had a losing the 100 cleanly, because I wouldn't class that as losing it. That looked to me like a false breakout. Spent two candles below, back above, and then held it. This is like the 100's gone, and we're between the 100 and 200. So we're losing that trend support of the 50 and the 100. The 50 and the 100 are close to crossing in the next probably week or two if price doesn't go up. And then you could have a counter trend rally up into those levels, which actually act as resistance initially. So you can see, and this is why I talked earlier in the week on one of the streams about the problem that crypto traders have, and I'll also cover it in Weekly Outlook. And the problem is that they're trend followers, right? And it's the mindset of a crypto trader or investor, and they don't know they are. So I'll cover that a bit more. And that's where basically what it means is every rally, if the rally goes far enough, is going to make everyone get long again, because they all think they're going to try and catch the bottom again, because the only thing they know is getting long, and the only way they know to make money is by buying stuff, and they don't have any plan or logic or skill beyond that. And that's the majority of people in crypto. Because again, if you're not an active trader learning and building and testing systems and doing all the stuff that you guys do, if you're just somebody who owns crypto, you need it to go up. You can't make money any other way. So every time it starts to go up, you buy. And when you're a smart money, you know that. So the market pushing up will always give you exit liquidity to sell higher. So it's even in the interest of bears for the market to go up as well as bulls. And that's why whenever it is actually a bullish shift, it's obviously great, right? When it rallies off the lows and then boom, away it goes and goes and goes, that's great. But people got completely conditioned by this type of move to think, oh, when's the next one? That's still fresh in the mind, right? And so everyone's drawing that out, and everyone's looking at that one. They're like, oh, maybe this is it, right? So that's what they're looking at now. It's like, maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. And that's why when price comes up here, if price comes up here, people are going to buy again, because they always do. And they did the exact same thing at every point here. They did it here, they did it here, they did it here, and they did it here. And they definitely did it there. And they're going to do it every single time, because why do gamblers, even though the game is rigged in favor of the casino, why do gamblers keep going back? Because maybe this is the time. Maybe. And also, when you gamble your way into a mess, it's easy, it's funny, like it's completely backwards logic, but it's funny and easy to think that you can gamble your way out of it, right? Gambling got you into the mess, but you don't really have another way to make that money. So you think, well, this time I'll be right, or this time I'll be smart. And so that's why when it's in a downtrend, especially, but when we're in this kind of low volatility, choppy phase, just expect every rally to fail. That is not the same as shorting, right? You don't short every bounce, because eventually you just get blown out. But expect the rallies to fail until there is significant high time frame confirmation that gives you a signal and an invalidation. And by the way, even though that first rally up might fail, it doesn't mean that there couldn't be a good trade there. Because again, if Bitcoin moved up like this and the bands did flip to green and then it pushed higher, now this is the important part, you don't get long in this part here, but if it moves up and the bands go green and then you have that breakout, you get long, your stop loss goes below the bands, and you're in, right? And if it's right, great, you catch the next move. If not, you get stopped out. But that's why you manage risk. At some point you have to take the risk. obviously. And so overall, I think people are obviously far more inclined to think this path's happening than that path. And they are all positioned for this path, and nobody's positioned for that path. You're like, oh, but people are shorting. People always say this, like, market's so bearish, everyone's shorting, squeeze them. It's not. Nope. Crypto has gone up for 18 months now. Bitcoin, at least. Some of the others haven't really, but Bitcoin's gone up for 18 months, almost 2 years now. And everyone's talking about bull market, and celebrities are coming in, and fucking there's ETFs and Jim Cramers and TV and Larry Fink, and everyone's long crypto. Every single coin, the actual coins, not the futures, every single coin is owned by somebody. They are long. And if they're not hedged, like a market maker, which obviously retail are not hedged, they are long. If they're ever short, it's a very short-term thing. You can hold a coin in your wallet for years and you're long crypto. You want crypto to go. You can open a short and just get blown out on a weekend. Right? One spike up. A lot of these people, right? So you have to just think of it this way. Whenever you're high time frame bullish and your low time frame bearish, okay? So your high time frame, you think the bull market's going on. So you own coins and you buy long dated, options, or you long the dated futures, but generally people buy spot, okay? No leverage. Because you're told if crypto goes up, I want to own crypto to be exposed to the upside. And then all this happens and you get bearish. And of course you don't get bearish here, you get bearish at the bottom. And so what do? They start shorting here. But they're short-term bearish. So by the time it has this kind of move here, they've used too much leverage, they're already stopped out, they're already wrecked. And of course they might re-short it, and it might go up again. But it's not like they're going to keep, or even have the collateral to hold a short position open to like 72, right? Only the bigger, sophisticated players would have those kind of hedge shorts, which they hedge at the highs, and then they won't even close it at the lows. They'll wait till it comes back because they're long, and they'll just close it at break even because they think that's confirmation that we're going higher. But everything else in between is just very short term. People get overexposed on one side and get blown out. So I'll dig into that more in Weekly Outlook. I'll dig into the monthly opens, how they tend to move, and also give you a bit of a breakdown of deeper into that trend follower mindset. And that's it. GM. See you later.